What if I told you that not everyone who says they're an alcoholic or an addict truly suffers from alcoholism or addiction, and that misunderstanding this can cost someone their life? Today, we're going to dive into the third tradition, its history, its meaning, and why it's critical to preserve the message for those of us who are real alcoholics or addicts. As I share this, please know I'm not a spokesperson of any fellowship, and I only speak from my personal experience with the 12-step program and the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. The third tradition states the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. At first glance, it seems simple. It ensures that anyone who seeks recovery can find a place in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous. And that inclusivity is one of the beautiful aspects of the fellowship. But let's look a little deeper at the long form of the tradition, which says, our membership ought to include all who suffer from alcoholism. Hence, we may refuse none who wish to recover. Nor ought AA membership ever depend upon money or conformity, and any 2 or 3 alcoholics gathered together for sobriety may call themselves an AA group, provided that, as a group, they have no other affiliation. This version, first published in the AA Grapevine in 1946, specifically addresses those suffering from alcoholism, the condition described in the Big Book. When the tradition was shortened to a desire to stop drinking, it opened the doors to everyone, which is great in terms of welcoming people. However, this change has also led to challenges in carrying the message to those of us who are real alcoholics or real drug addicts. In the early days of AA, the focus was clear: to help people suffering from alcoholism, as described in the Big Book. When someone wanted to join, they would often be qualified by a few members. They'd have conversations to determine whether the person truly suffered from the condition that AA was designed to address. But starting in the 60s and 70s, as the public learned of the fellowship's success, things began to shift. Courts started mandating people to AA after DUIs, and treatment centers sent their patients to meetings as part of their program with a head full of group therapy, talking about your feelings and self-help messages. These changes brought many people into AA who didn't fit the description of the real alcoholic. And while AA remained inclusive, the message began to dilute. Instead of focusing on the steps and the solution described in the Big Book, meetings started offering advice like make your bed or write a gratitude list. Those things might be helpful, but they won't save the life of a real alcoholic or addict. What's even more dangerous is the belief that having a DUI or a failed marriage automatically makes someone an alcoholic. That misunderstanding has led to a flood of people in the rooms who don't have the same problem as people like me, and therefore don't need the same solution to survive. Let's break this tradition down. The short form says, the only requirement for AA membership is a desire to stop drinking. This ensures that anyone can attend AA if they say they want to stop drinking. It creates a welcoming environment, but it also means that not everyone in the room is a real alcoholic or addict as described in the Big Book. So, who is the real alcoholic? On page 21 of the Big Book, it describes someone who suffers from a mental obsession that leads to restlessness, irritability, and discontentment until they have the ease and comfort of the first drink or drug. Once they start drinking, the phenomenon of craving kicks in, making it impossible for them to stop. Their drinking is completely out of their control. Compare that to someone who drank too much because of stress or bad habits but can stop drinking through willpower, attending meetings daily, and making their bed every morning. That person isn't a real alcoholic. They might be a hard drinker, but they don't share the condition that requires the steps to recover. Here's the danger. When the rooms are filled with people who don't suffer from alcoholism, their message of recovery won't help the real alcoholic or drug addict. In fact, it might hurt them. A gratitude list or daily meeting attendance and making the coffee isn't enough to save someone whose life depends on working the steps and having a spiritual experience that completely rearranges their whole attitude and outlook on life. I know this because I lived it. For 7 years, I struggled in and out of the rooms. I couldn't understand why other people could stop drinking and using, but I couldn't. The problem was that I wasn't hearing the real message. I didn't understand my condition. No one explained to me that I had a mental obsession and a physical allergy, the phenomenon of craving, that made it impossible for me to stop on my own. It wasn't until I heard a man share his story on YouTube, explaining the truth to me, straight from the Big Book, that everything changed. He explained the real problem of alcoholism and, more importantly, the solution. For the first time, I saw my condition clearly, and I understood what I needed to do to recover. I contacted this man and shared my experience. He had me pick up a local sponsor who would read the book with me and do what it says, and I haven't drank or used since. With all that in mind, how do we practice the third tradition while preserving the integrity of the message? First, welcome everyone, but be discerning. Anyone who says they want to stop drinking or using is welcome in our fellowships. But if you're a real alcoholic or addict, Be cautious about who you listen to for a solution. Look for people whose message aligns with the big book. Next, focus on the steps. If you're sponsoring someone, stick to the solution described in the big book. Avoid watering it down with opinions or advice that isn't based on the real program of 12-step recovery. Also, don't forget to educate newcomers. Help people understand the difference between a hard drinker and a real alcoholic. This isn't about excluding anyone. It's about ensuring that those who need a message of depth and weight can hear it. Finally, trust the process. The third tradition reminds us that everyone is welcome, but it also requires us to trust God's guidance in carrying the right message to those who truly need it. There's no real use in being militant about this against our fellows, but wise and discerning when we see someone come in the room that likely needs the real message. Share it with them and trust that God has them, not you. At its core, the third tradition reflects the spiritual principles of inclusivity, love, and responsibility. It teaches us to welcome anyone who seeks recovery while staying rooted in the truth of our program and experience. This balance is only possible because of a loving God who works through us. When we carry the message with humility and integrity, we create a space where the real alcoholic and addict can recover. The third tradition is a gift. It ensures that no one is turned away from any of the A's, and it creates a space where anyone seeking recovery can find a home. But if you're a real alcoholic or addict, it's critical to hear the message, the truth about your condition, and share the message of the solution found in the steps alone for other real ones needing you today. Take a moment to reflect. Are you hearing the message that will save your life? Are you carrying that message to others? Because at the end of the day, the third tradition isn't just about being inclusive. It's about ensuring that everyone who needs the truth can find it as you continue living recovered on purpose. If you want to go back to the first step and hear what a real drug addict or alcoholic is, you can click right here. Or if you want to listen to the whole guide for all 12 traditions, you can click right here.